Pre-flight 101, the course that will give you wings. 3. Use of single-engine aircraft manuals. 3.1 Manuals, Tiny Introduction to Not So Tiny Books. Hello, this is Jose again. Well, it seems like you have survived the first test and you're coming back for more. Just kidding. I'm really happy to have you back. Anyway, this picture right here, this picture you can see on the screen, is a picture I took off the bookshelf right next to my computer. I didn't prepare it, I just took the camera and snapped a picture to a random bookshelf at my office. With this, I don't want to brag about my books, don't worry. My point is, if you've ever visited the house of a pilot or a former pilot, probably the second thing you noticed, obviously after the obnoxious number of souvenirs hanging all around the place, is that there are books literally everywhere you swing your eyes to. Most of these books will be related to planes, flying machines, and basically the art of flying. This is in part because we, the aviators, are enthusiasts. We love our job and we love the thrill of flying. But also, this is since being a pilot means you never stop studying. I'm sorry if this was not really what you expected to hear, but it is the truth. There are courses, seminars, recurrent training, line training, simulator checks, proficiency checks, operator checks, inspections, without talking about the new systems, new procedures, procedure changes one time after another, CRM, dangerous goods, communication, yeah. You basically get the idea. A lot of paper. The thing is, if you can keep all that updated, stored, and ordered up there in your brain, congrats! You probably don't need this course, and you probably don't need manuals to fly a plane. But most of pilots nowadays rely on manuals to learn, to check, to operate, to troubleshoot, and even to teach, like I'm trying to do right now. This is because we're human, we forget stuff, we commit mistakes. Basically, we are not perfect. So, obviously, the bigger and more complex the aircraft you're going to fly is, the more help you need from our friends, the manuals. For the time being, we're going to be studying the manuals of the Cessna 172, a simple single-engine general aviation aircraft. The manuals we are going to be seeing today are the operations manual, the POH or pilot's operating handbook, the maneuver analysis, the airplane manual, the checklist, the FCTM, flight crew techniques manual, the FOM, the flight operating manual, the FCOM, flight crew operating manual, and the AFM, airplane flight manual. Don't worry guys, don't come at me. We're just gonna break it down right now so it gets easier for you. So let's take a look now at the differences between the manuals made for big commercial jets and the ones made for small piston aircraft. As you can see in the left side of the screen, the structure of manuals tailored for commercial jets is pretty easy to understand. There is the AFM. This is like the master book. It is published by the manufacturer. Imagine you might buy a motorbike. The manufacturer is going to give you specifications on all the pieces, characteristics, and operating envelope of the bike. Now, let's say you build a business and you want to rent this bike. You'd have to create certain rules for the renters to know what they should and shouldn't do with your bike. These rules for airplanes are called the FCOM and the FCTM. So, they're basically based on the information of the manufacturers. Okay, the operator writes in detail how he wants the aircraft to be operated. Then we have the OM, or the operations manual. This is like, and please forgive me for the comparison, the Bible for pilots. It is written by the company and tells pilots how to operate in detail, not only related to the operation of aircraft, but also regarding flight planning, fuel criteria, airdrome selection, or even the dress code for the crew. The operations manual has everything in it. Going back to the motorcycle example, this would be just like a document where you, the owner, specifies how bikers should dress, what is the schedule for the track, how many bikes can they rent at the same time, basically everything, as I mentioned before. Looking now to the right side of the screen, well, it seems like chaos reigns over the lands of general aviation manuals. You might say, Jose, what is going on? Didn't you know this? Didn't you study this? How am I supposed to study this mess? I mean, there is a cloud in the middle of the, I don't know, what is going on? Don't worry, we are about to break it down. The first thing you need to know is that regulations do not specify which manuals should the pilots of small single-engine airplanes use when operating. The only book, I say again, the only book that is mandatory to carry on board and prevails over the rest is the POH, Pilot's Operating Handbook. The Pilot's Operating Handbook is basically the origin of absolutely everything. Okay, all the other manuals are optional, but the POH needs to be on board. From the POH, training offices, operators, or even particular owners can develop their own manuals, like the FOM, the maneuver analysis, etc., etc. You can find millions of examples in the internet, okay? Once this is clear, we look down on the graph and see that the FCOM and the POH both point towards a common item, the checklist. We will discuss the importance of the checklist further on. With the checklist, we finish this introductory lesson on manuals. In the following lessons, we'll discuss the most important manuals for us and learn how to use them correctly. After this little review that you can read right now, I'm gonna leave you the first activity of the course together with this summary. The task consists on going to your training center and asking for all the manuals they can give you. Try to identify them, locate them in the graph, and if you do not belong to a school yet, don't worry. At the download section, you can find a couple manuals and examples we will be using for this course and that you can use to practice and study for the time being. Now you are one step closer to happily flying your Cessna, complying to the operator rules. Don't worry, there are a lot of POH in the internet you can find. They are perfectly valid. Also, you can go to the official Cessna website and purchase the official POH for the Cessna 172, so that way you can follow the explanations. Anyway, that was it about manuals for now. Join me in the next section. We will learn about the POH, the most important book we are ever going to carry on board.